What's going on, everybody? Packer Plug back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about, do the Green Bay Packers need a number one wide receiver? And before we get into all that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who is subscribed to the channel. We just hit 250 subscribers. We're now at 253. Just thank you to everyone who subscribed, man. I would never have thought we would have even, got to 253, and it's phenomenal. The goal next is 500, and let's just keep growing, man. Let's keep building, and yeah, thanks for everyone that watches, likes, and comments, and yeah, keep it going. Let's keep it going. Getting to the top of this video, it's kind of going around the internet, and this is a question that people have been asking the Green Bay Packers to fulfill for a long time, and that's get us a number one wide receiver. I mean, these are conversations that have been going on even when Aaron Rodgers was around. The Green Bay Packers, they need a number one guy. Oh, we want a number one guy. Oh, we want a Odell. We want a CeeDee Lamb. We want the guy, which the Green Bay Packers don't really have necessarily. But here's the thing: the Green Bay Packers do have great receivers, and they're almost in a position that, in my opinion, I don't think they need a number one wide receiver. I don't think they need to go out and get a CeeDee Lamb and go make a trade for get Devontae Adams back. I don't think they need to do that. I think where the Green Bay Packers are sitting right now is in a good position. You don't need to go out and get a guy like Justin Jefferson, who's phenomenal, who you're gonna have to overpay or overtrade for. And I think the position you're in right now with these young receivers who are second year, third year guys, who have all made an impact, and then you're sitting pretty with two amazing tight ends, who have been phenomenal. I think you're in a great position. You don't have to overpay anyone. You don't have that number one guy, and it's a question of, does that even work for Jordan Love? If Jordan Love has a number one wide receiver, is he spreading the ball around a little less? Is he waiting for the plays to develop to look for the open receiver, or is he just forcing it up to the number one guy if he has that? You know, you can go out and you can get that number one guy, but I think the way they played last year was, just get it to who's open, and you had studs all over the field. Whether that was Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson was injured most of last season, Bo Melton, Dontavian Wicks, Samori Torrey, um, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, right? Your tight ends. Jaden Reed was phenomenal. Romeo Dobbs is definitely the guy that I'd say is the front runner for that number one wide receiver position, and maybe Christian Watson too if he comes back healthy from that hamstring, and he can play consistently, because we saw what he did. We saw what he did against the Lions this last year, and then we saw what he did with Aaron Rodgers in Aaron Rodgers' final season. He was a stud, and he's phenomenal. He's a deep threat. He's a guy that you can go over the top, burn a guy, and just throw it down deep, and he's going to make the play. Romeo Dobbs is a guy that I think can play all over the field. Dontavian Wicks is a quick inside guy. Bo Melton, out of nowhere last year, played his part and did phenomenal. This is a position where the Packers can almost do what they want because they have a guy for everything. You have your slot guy. You have your outside deep guy with Christian. You got your guy that's all over the field with Romeo. You got your tight ends. And now it's like, you don't, in my opinion, you definitely don't need a number one receiver just because you went out and you got Josh Jacobs, okay? You got Josh Jacobs. You got another young rookie running back who is looking like he's going to be phenomenal. So you got that threat in the backfield that these teams have to play honest. You don't need that number one deep threat because you got a run game and you got a solid passing game all over the field. All over the field. You're in a great position. You don't got to overpay these guys. Let the Vikings of the world go out and pay a number one guy tons of money. Let them do that. We don't need to do that because we're in a great spot. And I think Matt LaFleur loves the spot he's in with having multiple positions that defenses can't really key in on one guy. When we had Devontae Adams, you could key in on Devontae Adams and you could try to take him out of the game. You could do that with Odell, right? In Miami. You could do that with the Vikings, with Justin Jefferson. You put your best guy on him, you double team him over the top, you shut him down, and they got nowhere else to go. With this team, you don't need to do that. You can't do that with the Packers offense because there's just too much talent all over the field, right? And I think as a play caller, Matt LaFleur enjoys that because he can go anywhere, anytime. He doesn't have to craft his playbook or the style of the offense to that one player. It kind of puts you in a box when you just have that number one guy and you almost overuse it. It's better to be in a position like this where you have many talented guys. Nobody's the number one necessarily, even though Romeo and Christian might kind of be leaning toward that. Maybe Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. It's going to be exciting to see like which way it goes, right, this season, with who's going to kind of step into that number one role. I hope Christian Watson's healthy. I would think it's going to be him or Romeo Doubs. I mean, look at Romeo Doubs. He can do it all. He can do it all. Christian is that deep threat that you just can't match that speed, right? Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, small, fast, inside guys. You just hit quick, and those guys are speedy, man. And you just have it all over the field. And you got your tight ends, like I said. So you do need a number one guy. Do you want to go out and trade a bunch of players or a bunch of draft picks or a bunch of stuff just to get a number one guy like a Davante Adams back? I don't think so. And you have a quarterback who last season proved that he almost didn't need a number one guy, right? He threw for the second most touchdowns in the entire NFL behind Dak Prescott without a number one guy, without a CeeDee Lamb. And that's kind of what you want from your quarterback. It's kind of what you want for your receivers too. So I think the Packers are in a great position. In my opinion, no, we don't need that number one guy. Is it fun for the fans to have that number one guy, that guy that's just a stud, that guy's just incredible? You got that number one Davante? Yes, it was amazing when Davante was here and Aaron Rodgers had Davante. But, a big talking point about Davante was Aaron Rodgers doesn't have anybody else. And I'd rather not have the number one guy and have a ton of good guys on the wide receiver positions, just so there's multiple threats. You go out and you get a guy who you're going to have to pay a lot of money to. You may not be able to sign some of these other guys. You may end up having to cut them or trade them. You want to go trade for Davante Adams? Go and try to. You're probably going to have to give up a Romeo Doubs. You're probably going to have to give up a Christian Watson. You're probably going to have to give up a Jaden Reed. One of these guys would have to go, right? You don't need to do that. Matt LaFleur, I'm sure, loves this wide receiver core. I don't think it's necessary to win a Super Bowl to have a number one guy. I mean, you look at the Chiefs, Super Bowl, and no number one guy. No number one guy. So what are we talking about, right? You could do it without a number one guy. You looked at the Green Bay Packers when they won a Super Bowl. We had a lot of talented guys that were. Jordy Nelson was the number one guy for a short amount of time there. But when we won the Super Bowl, he wasn't the number one guy. It was probably more Greg Jennings, right? But Greg Jennings was never the NFL wide receiver in the NFL, the top guy, right? The Packers didn't have that when they won a Super Bowl. They just had a ton of good guys. They had Donald Driver. They had Greg Jennings. They had Jordy Nelson. They had a lot of studs, man. They had a great running game going into the playoffs, right? You don't necessarily need that one guy. And I don't think they need that now. And I still think they could win a Super Bowl. But nevertheless, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Leave a comment. Do you think the Green Bay Packers need a number one guy? And if so, who would that be? Who would you like to see them trade for? What would you like to see them give up for that? And if you don't think they need a number one guy, leave that down in the comments below as well. Like I said earlier, thank you guys for 250 subscribers. I'm so grateful, so excited for this channel. We've been growing like crazy, and I couldn't be happier. Make sure if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe below. If you have subscribed already, share with a friend, leave a like, leave a comment. Let's keep it going. Pack a plug.